Hello, everybody. I think we are live. Just let us know if you can hear us. Okay. All right. I've got an intimation that we are live, and welcome to all of you in this cozy Sunday evening. Yes, I am not the face that you are very used to seeing. These lives are generally done by Kunj or Ankit. But today we are doing something special, and that's why I'm here with two of my guests today. I'll tell more about them in time to come. But let me tell you why we are here. We are here to actually solve a problem for you. And what is that problem? That problem is something that's going to come very soon for you guys, which is the summer placements. Once you are in your B school, one thing that you need to focus on very early on in your career is how am I going to crack the summer placement? And that's something that is there in every individual, every student's mind whenever they go in. And now is the time when the summer placement season is around. There are companies that are going to come on campus, maybe not this year because of the whole situation that we are in. And everybody wants to know that how do they get the best placement opportunity? And for that, we have come up with a special program for you. Inside IIM is here with you to help you with the summer placement prep. More on this is going to be covered in this conversation. And we have two guests, as I mentioned earlier, with us. We have Pranav and we have Arshia. Arshia has done her bachelor's in homeopathy. Yes, she is a doctor. And then she moved into IIM Indore. From IIM Indore, she got her placement, summer placement in Decathlon. She did her internship in Decathlon in the sales and marketing domain. And from there on, she actually got selected in Cipla to be a brand manager. And now she's a senior brand manager there. We have Pranav also in the live today. Pranav is, as a lot of you might relate with, Pranav is an engineer. Yes, Pranav, we have a lot of people who are engineers and yeah, the gems of the world. And then Pranav actually got into IIM Indore also. At this point, if you're thinking that both Pranav and Arshia are friends, no, they're not. Arshia is Pranav's senior by 1 year. They'll tell you more about it when we go through. Pranav has actually interned with General Electric in a general management role. And Pranav is going to join one of the consulting firms that, you know, a lot of people want to join, which is EY. So welcome guys, welcome Arshia, welcome Pranav to this session. I know I have a habit of talking a lot, but I will let you guys talk today. I will let you guys, you know, guide a lot of people who are here who want to know more about how to crack that summer placement, how to, you know, go into these companies, go into these dream companies like you guys have done. So Arshia, I'm going to begin with you. Can you tell us something about yourself? I mean, when did that IIM thing happen with you? When did you think that, you know, I want to do an MBA and this is what my calling lies?
Yeah, so I think for me, the entire MBA thing happened somewhere during my internship. That is when I realized that, this is something that I would be interested in and I would be interested in following this up. So that is when I realized it, and of course started preparing for the whole gamut of competitive exams. Got lucky with CAT, and then obviously IIM Indore happened, and I think it's been a great journey so far, and definitely getting into a prestigious B school is a dream come true. So yeah, so I think it's been a great journey so far.
Right. Okay, Pranav, for you from engineering, when did that shift to MBA happen for you?
Yeah, so actually, when I graduated as an engineer, probably it was not on the cards like many engineers. So I worked for Cisco for 2 years in a network consulting position. But then, I felt I need to move on to a career or a career path which offers me much more breadth, And for that, MBA was clearly the next logical extension in my journey. And then, the usual pattern of prep, admission, and all that happened. Yeah, so it's been
Right.
good.
Right. So, guys, one thing that is certain and which is in the minds of a lot of students, I'm sure currently, is how are things going to be from here? We have
Right.
actually intensively talked to a lot of students who have been part this year, who have gone to their respective B schools, and everything has, kind of changed for them this year with the pandemic and with online classes. So, Ashia, I would like to know from you the very first thing that a student, B school student, I think, I'm sure you guys were also very, excited about this whole summer placement where people, flock to these rooms, and then there's some kind of a, a saga kind of an event happens in your B school. All that will be a miss this time. How do you think that summer placement process is going to be this time around?
So to be very honest, I don't think excited is the word that anybody would describe summer placements. I think terrified would be more like it. So yeah, I think part of the reason is obviously because B school is a whole different experience altogether. I mean, when you join in, especially in term one, you don't know what hits you. I mean, it is like that, right? So I think it's very interesting to see how it's going to be for people this time, because especially for summer placements, there's this whole preparation cycle that you're sort of put through, and there's a lot of peer-to-peer learning that happens, and all of that takes place on campus. So considering, especially during COVID, that people have not got a chance to go to campus itself, I mean, definitely, I think it's going to be challenging this time. And if you look at the entire process of summer internships, obviously there are components which anyway used to happen like remotely, right? I mean, in terms of CV shortlisting, or even to some degree, personal interviews would be conducted remotely in case the recruiter could not actually come on campus. So I think probably a component which would actually change drastically because of COVID is going to be, the peer-to-peer support network and the preparation cycle, which used to be carried out on campus, and certain team building activity, teamwork activities like say GDs or, case solvings or something like that, which needed people to be in one setting together. So I think those are the things that are going to be impacted more. So yeah, so I think it is going to change drastically, but I think it's going to be interesting at the same time, both for recruiters as well as students. It's going to be a new experience.
Right, right. What about you, Pranav? Can you shed some light on, the kind of experience that you had last year?
Yeah.
Last year is when the
Yeah, so
internship happened for you?
to first address your point about summers, the experience, the word I'd use is spectacle. It's a chaotic spectacle. I mean, you really got to be there, and it's also it's a cacophony of human emotions, both positive, negative, the whole gambit. But yeah, as to add to Arshia's point, once you enter the campus, you encounter a very strong support system, that is the seniors. I mean, I remember I used to practically walk into my seniors room, beat my club seniors or my UG, my Bitsian seniors on campus. I mean, that's how I got a lot of my support, and that's not happening clearly this time around. So students really need an external support system, and I think that's where the whole program of Inside IIM would kick into the picture.
Right,
So yeah, definitely something would be needed to fill
right.
the void.
Pranav, as you mentioned, we actually thought about this whole aspect, and that is why we have come up with this program under Kounsel with Inside IIM. A lot of people who come in to these B schools, they are kind of not aware of what to go do next, how to go about this. When you have, say for example, Pranav, when Pranav has Arshia as a senior in IIM Indore, Pranav can actually directly go to Arshia and meet and talk and clear the doubts and take help from CV building also, for CV building also, which is a very crucial aspect. And I'm sure Pranav has also done something like this in his IIM Indore days, because a company is coming and Pranav rushes to some senior's room and then get some last minute update to the CVs. Something of that sort happened, Pranav, with you?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we had this thing called iterations. So I went through any number of iterations before mine got frozen. And I think it's really important because the CV is the first messaging point, the first touch point with the companies. So it all starts from there.
Right, right. So, since we are talking about the CV, how important the CV actually becomes? How, because we all know that that piece of document is the first thing that the recruiter is going to see. So, how important is the CV shortlisting, and what should the students actually focus on while they are creating their CVs? So I'll ask this to Pranav, and then Arshia, you can go.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like I mentioned, it's the first thing, and CV is mostly needed, first for the shortlisting process, where the law of probability kicks in like you haven't seen before, and therefore anyone just scans your CV for about maybe 20 seconds, 10 seconds, and you're either in or you're out. So
Right.
it has to speak to the recruiter, and people end up spending a lot of time towards the fag end of term one, which is not really advisable. So I hope the people who are the students who are watching this have already put their proofs, their documentation proofs on with them. If they have not, I'll say do it like right now after this call, because towards the end, what's going to happen, the finals, the end terms, these audiovisual presentations, and then the interviews all start hitting you like a ton of breaks, and there'll be no time, there'll be no respite. So I'll say get started, and it's very important.
Right. What about a CV is very important, Arshia. Like, I'm sure when you were also building it, you got help from your seniors, and you put in your thoughts also that these are the things that I should incorporate. So, tell me about what your process was when you actually built your CV.
So, see, first of all, of course, like Pranav mentioned, it's the first interaction that you have with your recruiters, right? Even before the whole process starts. So, that is where that's your chance to make an impression, right? So that is why it becomes extremely important. At the same time, going along the process later on, even during your interview process, most especially if you're a fresher, most of your questions are going to be centered around your CV, right? I mean, ultimately it's going to be a lot of questions are going to come from your CV. That is why it's very important, and you really need to think about what you want to put in there.
Right.
So for us, I mean, how I went about it was initially we just listed everything down in like a master CV format. Whatever you can think of remotely, which is remotely related to your academics or your co-curriculars, or just not getting into a lot of details, everything that you could possibly think of. And at this stage, why having an external person helps is because there are some things which you don't realize that you've done, and it doesn't really click. So it's only when somebody
Right.
starts probing and asks you that, did you do anything else in college, did you participate in something, was there any extracurricular activity that you were a part of. So when somebody probes you, that is when it clicks that, okay, I did this as well. So that is why
Right.
having an external person who looks at it very objectively helps. So for me also, like obviously we have our seniors and we had a whole lot of mentors who were there with us to help us through the process. So that probing sort of helped me realize that there were so many things which I didn't really consider, which could be put down in a CV. So I think obviously the first step is sort of to list everything down that could possibly go in a CV, and then you sort of iterate it and bring it down to that crisp one pager. And
Right.
obviously, I think one thing which is really important when you sort of build a CV is to, quantify things, and obviously quantify things with context, right? I mean, if you just say that you were ranked one, the recruiter has no idea. I mean, were you ranked one in your class, in your school, in the whole district, right? So that is why it's always important to sort of give context to your CV and to provide details. So, keep it crisp, but at the same time, whatever you write has to give some amount of context. So I
Right.
think that has really helped me. I mean, that was what I took out of my CV iteration process.
So
Uh,
editing
just
more than adding is what
Yes,
Arshia is
yes, yes,
suggesting. Yes, Pranav.
yeah.
to add to take on from where Arshia left, I mean, this might sound a little bit abstract for a single piece of paper, but your CV's got a narrative story. I mean, a
Yeah,
story of you.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And there are, like any story, you can have alternate versions of the same story, which are what each company would like to see. So like we prefer action versus comedy versus romance. HUL would like a story which is different from what a JPMC might like to see.
Right.
And these are very subtler points in messaging. The same points could be, you can reorder them. And if you have 20 points in your master CV, like Arshia said, but there's space for 10, I'm just giving a random number. Then the 10 that you select would again change from the variants.
Yeah.
I mean, the participants would know about this, but pay very close attention to this one. You just
Right.
can't go with one generic thing.
Very quickly, do you guys think that with your CVs you are telling stories to the recruiters?
Yeah, absolutely. And also we have to keep in mind that, when you join a B school, you are competing with a whole lot of people, right? And to be very honest, a lot of them will have similar stories. So it's like, how do you make yourself different from all of them, and how do you stand out? So yeah, absolutely. It
All
has
right.
to be a good story. Yeah.
Absolutely. So Pranav and Arshia, you have agreed to be mentors of this program that we are running on inside IIM to help people, to get through this hurdle of summer placements. For that, how do you think, you guys being the mentors, how do you think you will be able to help students to, build that CV that's going to be the game changer for them?
Arshia, would you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. So, like I said, having an objective eye always helps, because beyond a point, if you're sort of looking at the same piece of paper again and again, there are things that you will not be able to identify. And you actually need somebody who's more experienced than you to, have a look at it and figure out what can be added and what can be removed. So, this entire process of iteration is something which you need external help for, and you do need a mentor for. So I think this is sort of where we come in, so that we give you that objective perspective that this is what's going right with it, and this is what needs work, so that you can finally bring it down to that one crisp page. So I think that objective view is something that which we'll be able to help with. At the same time, I think support, right? Because summer placements are like an extremely stressful time. So even if you have somebody to sort of be there for you and tell you, okay, this is fine and it'll happen, I think that will also play a big role.
Right, right. Pranav, what do you think?
Yeah, definitely. The support part is like, again, we keep on repeating it, but it's because it can't be emphasized enough. It's so important. And yeah, so incidentally, I've like just like Arshia, on 2 years on campus, I've gotten to see 4 or 5 placement cycles, summers and finals. And interestingly enough, during each of those cycles, for those 2 weeks or a fortnight, my pastime would be getting others placed or helping others get placed. It's almost become like a hobby of mine, and so I think that will really help the participants. I mean, if I when I get to do it again, so yeah, when you've gone through so many cycles, you get this small idea about where things might give the participants an edge. Whether in the academics you put it in chronological or reverse chronological, you decide it depending on the points that you have, and things like that. And also the formatting. I mean, the placecom will always be behind your back for the formatting, but people do make mistakes, and I've seen the alums or the seniors who come from companies, they can spot formatting mistakes within seconds on a CV, and that reflects very poorly.
Right.
So small things like these, I think, could be overlooked despite being cautious. So that's where this would kick in.
I
All
think
right.
even grammatical errors, right? I
Oh,
mean,
oh yeah,
yeah.
that's
So yes,
blasphemous.
yeah.
Of course. Who can miss that? There are a lot. Okay, so guys, as you heard, Pranav, who is born helper, who has helped a lot of people in his campus at least, is here. He is one of the mentors for this program, and to get help from Pranav and Arshia for your CV building and more in this program, all you need to do is click on the link that is in the description section. Go to the place that link leads you to, and see what is in the offering. If you like it, be part of this experience, and we assure you that we have a lot of quality stuff there for you. Moving on from CV building, the next big hurdle is the GD. I personally am afraid of GDs. I've never done GDs good because I know, I mean, there is this crazy thing around GD which says that, you have to be a loudspeaker, you have to prove your point. And that just does not happen with me. I am a very soft spoken person. And then I always feel that, is it going through? Is my point getting hammered in the head of people? But this time around, the GDs are also going to change a lot as the whole placement season is concerned. What do you guys think, is going to be the form of GDs this time around? Arshia, you can start, and then we
Yeah.
can go to Pranav.
So, see, the thing is, what makes GDs really challenging during COVID times is going to be, the technology issues, all of the connectivity issues. What if someone drops off from a call and all of that? So, I think that is going to make conducting GDs a little challenging this time. But I think at the same time, what GDs essentially are at the root of it is a test of how good your communication skills are, how good you can work in a team, how assertive you could be without at the same time being respectful to other people. So I think if not GDs, probably companies would either find alternative ways to test the same qualities, or sort of make an attempt to the whole digital GD thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Pranav, what do you think? How is this GD different from the other GDs or the GDs that you have faced? And what will be a differentiator?
Yeah, so before I come to that, again, to pick up your point on a personal opinion on GDs, I don't like GD. I don't think they're a good metric to evaluate people. But anyway, that's how the system is, and we can't crib about it. So yeah, we'll have to do well in that. As far as the point of how GDs could change this year, again, we are all very, in the dark about what could happen. But yeah, obviously you can't have a scenario where multiple people are speaking at once. That's just not going to happen. So I think something like if people have heard of a chairman GD, that's one format of a GD that's there, where there's one chairman who is anointed and people are asked to speak in order on an issue. That could happen, or people could just be asked to speak in order on a topic. But the core part is again communicating your point in a crisp and precise manner. So that doesn't change. The crux is still the same. Maybe some parts about body language and other things might go out of the window virtually, but the crux is still the same. And having mock GDs is still very important. Some people are naturally good at GDs, so for them, I mean, I say you're lucky, but otherwise, you got to work on your confidence. What shall I say? People either end up speaking too short or they ramble on for too long. Neither is good. So you have to work on your timing and crispness. And like Asha mentioned about the connection, guys, please be sure, be there with a redundant setup. And by redundant, I mean have at least two connections in place, stable connections, so that even if one goes out, the other one kicks in immediately. Because during summers, to put it very bluntly, this sounds very cruel. No one's going to care for you except yourself. The seniors might have been there, but now they won't be there. So only you are looking out for yourself. So please take care with respect to the internet connection.
Also, the fact that the seniors are also pretty much busy with their own day-to-day online classes and assignments and everything that they have as well to manage.
Yeah.
And to help other people, to help juniors within that timeline becomes very difficult. It gets easier when people flock together, and then a particular senior can actually help a kind of a group. But that is something that is not happening definitely this year around. And for that, this program is definitely going to be helpful for a lot of students, that I'm pretty certain about. Very quickly, if we have to talk about some of the definite do's and don'ts of the GD process. Asha, we will start with you because Pranav has spoken some
Yeah.
things about it. And so I would like to know a little more about, what your process of the GDs were, and what do you actually suggest people that they definitely do, and don't do during the GDs?
Yeah, so first of all, I think before getting into the whole what happens in the actual day of the GD, I think the only key to cracking GDs is practice. Because I mean, your recruiter is not going to care if you're not good at a GD, or you're not somebody who's comfortable speaking in a group, because ultimately that is a test of how you're going to perform later on the job as well, right? If your team is having a meeting, and unless you assert yourself and put your viewpoint forward, you're not going to progress, right? So the only key to getting successful in GDs is practice. I mean, just get together with a couple of friends and select a few topics every day and just have mock GDs in practice, and just learn to put yourself forward. And it's not necessary that you keep talking, or that you have to be the one to start or something like that. It's important to speak with the right points. So obviously, unless you have like a very good point which is very relevant, don't rush to start the GD, because a lot of times what we see is everybody wants to talk at the same time, everybody wants to be the one who starts a GD. That ends up becoming a chaos. So it's okay. I mean, just because you don't start a GD doesn't mean you're not going to get selected. So unless you have a very strong point, don't rush into get into the whole I want to start the GD thing. So obviously make a few good entries, and sort of like if you're making a point, substantiate it with examples. That is going to help. So it helps if you sort of try to prepare a few points and example. For example, if you've practiced a couple of abstract topics, a couple of current affairs topics, or like say domain specific topics, that helps. So that how you have to put your point across with substantiating it with examples. So if I say that, just a very random example, that X numbers of farmers have committed suicide due to famine this year, versus if I say something like, according to this report, it said that these farmers.
Right.
So
Setting the
my
context.
point, yes.
Correct.
Yes, so that's important, that you whatever you're saying, you substantiate it. That will obviously come if you're well read. So that again is
Correct.
part of the preparation, right? You have to be a bit well read, you have to practice it well, and then finally on the day of the GD, don't rush in to speak well, to speak first. Make a few good entries, like 2 or 3 good points with very good examples are, I mean, you're okay if you've made some meaningful contribution to the GD, right? And so if the GD is going in a particular flow, don't rush into like put in your own point if it's not relevant to the conversation that's going on. And always sort of keep an open mind. I mean, it's not necessary that you take a positive stand or like a negative stand. It's sort of weighing your options, try to figure out which way you're trying to think. I mean, it's not necessary that you limit yourself to one viewpoint. And I think also another thing is, if asked to summarize, so sometimes what happens is, if somebody is being exceptionally quiet, the recruiter will ask you to summarize the discussion. So in that case, I think it's very important that you listen to what other people have been saying throughout the discussion, so that if you're given such an opportunity, you can make use of it. So, even if you're not speaking, it's important that you are receptive, and even in your body language, and you listen to what other people are saying. So I think, these are a couple of basic points that you need to keep in mind.
Right. Before we move to Pranav with this particular question, I just want to tell all the people who are, on the live watching this conversation, the comments box is open. Ask anything that you want to ask these guys. These guys are here. I will try and take as many questions as possible so that your queries can be resolved. We will take some questions, whichever has come up. Our team is actually working on vetting those questions, and they will provide them to us. Moving to the conversation, Pranav, your do's and don'ts for the GD beyond whatever Arshia said.
So,
Do you think?
yeah,
Yes.
Arshia's list was pretty comprehensive, and she touched on so many points. I could go on like 2 more subtler points for each of those. I mean, that'll take up an hour in itself. So I think we'll leave a lot of that for when the actual sessions happen, because this is not the core GD session. But I'd like to point out a few things. Like how your salary has a fixed and a variable component. The fixed component can't change within the first 1 or 2 years. And only the variable depends on how you perform. I think the same way your performance in the GD is a function of 2 parts. I'll let me just call it base and variable again. So the base part is largely dependent on your GK, your business knowledge, how well read you are. I mean, if you're able to quote philosophers off the cuff and just, buttress your points, that's just excellent. That just seals the GD for you. But those are not things which you can change in a matter of weeks. So that's there on one side, but there's also a huge variable part. And that was the content. And the next part is the articulation. And that is something which can be worked on and dramatically changed in a matter of even a couple of weeks with practice. And your language doesn't have to be very flowery in GDs. It's not an elocution contest. It's about being effective and precise. So the variable part is, I think, where this program would help people the most. And also the content could be improved, like you subscribe to some business journals, publications like the Ken and the other things. And even inside IIM produces a lot of articles. So keeping abreast of those things would help. But yeah, this is something that I wanted to mention.
All right. And so before we move on to the next bit of our conversation, which is about the personal interviews, I have a question from the people who are actually watching it. So this question is from Isha Uttam. She's asking, I don't know whether as a fresher with no prior work ex, how should we go about with our interviews during summer? So basically the question is about those guys who don't have experience like you, Pranav. So yeah, I mean, do you want to take that question, or Arshia is the person who should answer?
Actually, I have work ex. I worked at Cisco for 2 years.
Right. I know. I that's why I mentioned that, that you might not understand this question because
no, I mean,
the pain
no,
of a person who has not gone through a work experience.
No, but sure, I'll just say my 2 cents and then Arshia can give a more better answer. A lot of my friends, many of my friends were freshers straight out of college. And I think for a lot of the roles, it's not really an impediment. So in your interviews, for whoever has asked the question, it's just that there'll be more points from academics, from your extracurricular, and from your projects and internships. So the point is to be really, and you know what, barring a very few companies, there won't be a lot of in-depth technical questions because you've been on the campus, or let's say you've been enrolled for all of 2 months, and there's not really they can grill you on. So you've got to be very sure of every single word that you've put on your CV, and be confident in your answers. That's it.
Right. Arshia, want to take that very quickly?
Yeah,
please?
yeah. So I think
does that
I
make a
agree
difference?
See, to be very honest, it depends on the role, right? I mean, it depends on what the company is hiring for. So if say for example they're hiring for a role which does not really require say prior technical experience or something, I mean, I don't think it should be such a disadvantage to you. At the same time, for personal interviews for freshers, I think it's going to revolve more around your resume and your say HR based questions. So it's going to be more about your past, because like Pranav mentioned, you've not really done anything in a B school that you can talk about. So for example, if it's a marketing internship, they're not going to really ask you some complicated marketing fundas or anything of that sort, right? Because you simply don't know enough at that point of time to talk about those. So it's going to be about your resume. So every single point that you've written on your resume, you should be able to talk about that for at least 2 minutes. So that is why it's important that you write the correct things on your resume, those that you're able to justify. So all of your interview is going to center mostly around your resume and of course a few HR based questions.
Right. On this, we have a very interesting question. As you just mentioned that you're not going to be asked, tough marketing questions, but are you going to be asked, about your ACADS? Does that make or break your things in a marketing internship? So this question is asked by Rahul Verma. How can a fresher prepare if they have low ACADS and they want to get into marketing? Do you think that changes anything, your low ACADS, or you not performing well in any
So
previous
to be
exams?
very honest, unless the ACADS are like really low or something, which is like a red flag for the company, I don't think, to be very honest, it should be like a negative point. I mean, that's what I feel. So companies are not going to ask you why did you get like say this XYZ percentage in your 12th, or why did you score a 4 GPA in your bachelor's, right? So unless it's so low that it raises a red flag for a company, I don't think it should really be like a deterrent.
And to just add to that, if ACADS are going to be such a red herring for the company, it will be taken care of in the shortlisting itself. I mean, you don't
Yes,
have to
yes.
wait till the interview for that. So,
Right. Right. All right. Moving to the elephant in the room, which is the personal interviews. I don't know how you guys handle the personal interview, but that's something which, personally, if I can say about myself, I was very intimidated in the beginning when I was part of these interviews. And I thought that I was rejected a lot of times because sometimes, what happens is you're not confident with the language that you want to pick up. You are not confident what should be the tone, for the interview. Where should you go? Where do you should you, put out the negative things that have happened in your academics, and how you have struggled or your way to this point, or you just, paint a picture or a story which shows your, credentials, or how you have rose to the opportunities that came your way. So that is somehow, a kind of a dilemma that every student faces, and I'm sure that happens in the summer placement interviews as well. uh, Tell me a little about your experiences of personal interviews. I'll start with Pranav, and then Arshia, you can talk a little bit about it.
yeah, so first of all, let me just say, personally, I just love personal interviews. I mean, I really enjoy them. So, yeah. But if you were to ask about my experience, the first time around in summers, I'd say it was mostly centered on my CV and my work experience. Because it was for a general management role, they did concentrate a lot on what I did at Cisco previously. So, I mean, the person really drilled into the details of what I'd written, each and every point, to see if I had really done them or not. Because it was another tech company. So, yeah, the bottom line is be thorough of whatever you have written. And I have a slightly different take on personal interviews, in that it's like poker. You got to play the person. It's a lot of I take a very behavioral approach to personal interviews. So right from the moment you enter, I think the first 2 minutes are the window when you really set the tone for the whole interview. You either create a positive or a negative bias, and that bias will basically make or break the selection choice, unless you happen to be very good later on throughout the interview. So
Right.
whatever bias is created initially is the one that sets the tone for the interview. Yeah.
Right. Do you think there is a way, when you are stuck in a position in a interview, and then you don't know how to get out from that situation? Uh, do you think that's possible to, keep a have a lasting impression even when you are stuck in such a situation and come out as a winner?
Yeah, I mean that is a very real possibility, and there are two don'ts in such a situation. One is don't beat around the bush, and second one is don't bluff. I mean that goes without saying, but somehow people fall victim to that trap. I don't know why, but don't try either of those. Very experienced people are going to be on the other side of the table or the screen, whatever. So that, and the next thing is it helps when you're stuck if you're able to think out your thoughts loudly, so that the interviewer feels you're not just stuck in a void, in a limbo. But if they get to see your thought process, they might, not they might, they will usually chip in and try to set you on the right path. So actually, it's a way of asking for help. Uh, so that's what I would do, and that's what many people do to dig themselves out of that hole. So yeah.
Right, right. What about you, Asha? What do you think? How important do you think the personal interviews are, and how do you see it? I mean, do you think as a recruiter, this is something that defines that person, that gives a perspective of who that person is, whom they are talking to?
So I think first of all, I mean, what people have to remember is that personal interviews are not a way of judging how good you are or how talented you are, right? It's simply if you're a good fit for, first of all, obviously the role, and then the team, and then the organization at large. So I mean, that is what you have to remember, right? It's a measure of how good you will be for the company if you're a good fit. So, and that is what the recruiter is trying to assess as well. So I think what's worked for me with respect to personal interviews has been, once you do realize that you have this interview lined up, I mean, just research whatever the company has been up to, what have they done in the past, get in touch. And at this point of time, what's extremely crucial is getting in touch with people who've either been in similar interviews or an alum from the same company, because that helps give you a perspective about what's expected out of you, right? So that really helps. And with respect to what you asked, I think even if you fumble, or if you feel like the interview is going south, I mean, there's always a chance to make a recovery, right? I mean, until the time you walk out the door, or I mean the call ends, there's always a chance of recovery.
Right.
So
Right.
you just have to keep a calm head and sort of keep going on, because that is also something that they're looking for, right? I mean, what would you do if you're put in a sticky situation? Are you able to sort of maintain your calm, or are you somebody who just fumbles and loses it?
Right. Any story that you have where you thought that this is something which is very tricky and I don't know a way out from this, that you want to share, and how you applied your idea at that point in time to get out of that?
So
Anything that comes to your mind?
yeah, so see, I remember somebody had asked me that, if they asked me a question which I didn't really know an answer to, and I thought, oh God, this is gone. I'm never going to make it. But at that point of time, what actually helped me is acknowledging that I don't know the answer. So, rather than trying to bluff my way out, just acknowledging that, listen, I'm sorry, but this is something which I don't know. And then the interview just went on post that, right? I mean, I didn't lose it at that point of time. So I think sort of maintaining a cool head, and if you don't know it, just admit you don't know it. I mean, like Pranav said, the people sitting on the other side are much more experienced than you. Do not try to lie or bluff your way out of it. They're going to see right through you. So I think that is something which I experienced, and that helped. I mean, just admitting that you don't know and then sort of moving on. I mean, they're not going to hold it against you. I mean,
Right.
on the contrary, I think they'll appreciate that at least you're being honest.
Correct.
Yeah.
Pranav, you have any? Yeah, sure.
Yeah, to add to the fit part that Arshia spoke about, which is as accurate as it gets, at least for summers, most of them are fit interviews. And I mean, just imagine you put yourself in the shoes of the interviewer, if you will. And most of the times, the interviewer is the business line manager that you'll probably end up working under. So they have their usual work, even for that day cut out, and this is an extra work for them, and they take their time out of their schedule, which is more likely busy than not, and they sit with you are a stranger at that point. They sit with a random stranger, and they're not expecting you to create miracles on the spot, or even when you get to the company, or they're looking for it. Hey, I'm speaking to this guy or girl, and I'll probably end up spending 8 weeks with this person. Can I work with this person or not? That's really the thought that's running through their head. And so anything and everything you do will eventually be impacting the balance of that question. So
Right.
make yourself to be a person whom they can work with. That's it.
Right. Acha, very quickly, the first thing that you get asked in an interview if you go in there is, tell me about yourself.
Yeah.
How do you actually tackle this question?
Yeah. So I think that this is something I'll answer in a way that I can tell you what not to do. Because I think that is what's more important here than to fall into the trap of what to do. So I think first of all, don't just start listing down everything you've done in your life. Like, this is my name, this is my bachelor's, this is my college. Just don't. I mean, they have your CV in front of you, right? They can read. So you have to give them something more. rather than just what's written on their CV, on your CV. So even when you're introducing yourself, you have to make it interesting and try to sort of weave a story around it, so that it tells them a little about who you are as a person. So rather than just listing everything down, you have to sort of make it a story and make it engaging, because they've asked the same thing to everybody that day, and everybody's told them that they're probably an engineer from this college and they're doing their MBA or they worked here. So how do you stand out in that scenario?
Right. Any expert advice on that, Pranav?
I don't know about expert, but I think Arshia like articulated exactly what I wanted to say. They have your CV, so don't make it a re-recital of your CV. And the story part again. So just to add to that, make it interesting and stand out. I mean, when you leave the room, they should have more reasons to not reject you, and that happens
Right.
if you stand out from the rest. So, for example, I in one of my interviews, I started like I'm Pranav, and mine is a tale of two cities, Bangalore and Goa, which is where I did, and that's how I started. And then it helps if you put in different things like you play an instrument, or you like so and so sports. Say you're a fan of so and so club, or like I said I'm a fan of Roger Federer, and you can say I love debating politics and philosophy. Something that just stands out. And there are two advantages of that again. From that, there is a very good chance that they'll pick on to that point because they're bored by the time they interview you. And they'll go on speaking to you for 5 more minutes about that. So what happens is it's 5 minutes of personal connect with the interviewer and 5 minutes less of other technical questions.
Right. And you get that 5-minute window to prove your point. And that's why you have to be concise, you have to be precise, and you have to,
Yeah.
put everything forward that you want.
And one more last thing, guys, make sure your interview is a dialogue and not a monologue from your side. People, including the managers, have a short attention span, and if they zone out, you're out. So make sure it's a dialogue.
Correct. If you zone out, you're out. Absolutely. And I, on this, moment, I just want to take some time to tell the audience who's watching, please ask questions, whatever you have. You can ask these guys who are present here. You can click on the link that's on the description. Our team is also putting that link on the comment section. You can go there and check out the new program that we have launched. Moving forward, Arshia, you have had a sales and marketing internship with Decathlon. And right now you're a brand manager at Cipla. So what should one expect for a summer placement interview when they're going for a marketing kind of a role?
Right. So mostly, if in case you're a fresher, it's going to revolve around your resume. In the event that they sort of decide to shift away from that, obviously there are going to be a few HR questions. Like most probably your interview is going to start with, tell me something about yourself. And this question is very important, because this also gives you a chance to sort of direct the conversation. Because in an interview, I mean, to some extent, you do have the power to direct the interviewers to talking about what you want to talk about. Like for example, like Pranav mentioned that he's a fan of Roger Federer, right? So the interviewer is quite likely to pick on that and sort of ask you more questions about that, right? So tell me something about yourself becomes a very important part. So that is something that you have to work on. Secondly, each and every point on your resume, I mean, like I mentioned earlier, you should be able to speak on every point for at least 2 minutes and substantiate it. I mean, in one of my interviews, I was actually asked to delve into kind of questionnaire I had prepared for a case competitions, and they actually wanted to know each question that was there in the questionnaire. So that is the kind of depth that they can go into. So that is why you have to have each point prepared quite well. Apart from that, sometimes we've also seen that in certain especially sales and marketing internships, they are likely to throw a curveball and ask something like, this is a pen, sell it to me, or something of that sort, right? Because sales is an important part of like a marketing job later as well. I mean, you always start with phase and then move on to marketing. So be ready for curveballs like that. I mean, you can't always predict 100% what's going to be asked in an internship and in internship interview, right? And secondly, I think a few marketing concepts that you have to sort of at least be aware of. Like, even if you don't know them very deeply, at least be aware of, so that if you're asked a situational question, you can sort of apply them.
Right. Right. Pranav, we just now got a question asking that, how do you get on with an interview with a consulting company? I'm not naming that consulting company, and that question is directly linked to you because you are going to be working in one of the, major consulting firms, EY.
I can probably guess the name of the company, but anyway.
Yeah. So, yeah, while you're on campus, this is something, I mean, I have been to a lot of campuses and I have, heard a lot of stories. And by doing a lot of videos on Inside IIM YouTube channel, we have seen that there is huge interest for consulting roles. First of all, how does it feel to, be a person who's going to work in a consulting firm? And how are you going to be preparing yourself for that?
I mean, obviously, I feel lucky and happy that consulting was always my preferred domain, even before I got into an MBA. I mean, that was the whole point of, the breadth and all that. So consulting offers you that breadth. And coming to the preparation part, more importantly, I was also a part of the consulting club on campus. And there's just one mantra for consulting interviews, and that is case practice. So what I would recommend is there are these different types of cases frameworks, like profitability, new market. So they're like probably at 8 or 10 of those, and there are 10 major industries, let's say. So this was also told to me by a senior, and I found it very prudent. So you make a matrix of industries versus types of cases and try to do at least one or two from everything. And rather than reading cases, that's a waste. Try to practice the cases with someone, form a case group with like-minded people. I mean, you will find plenty of people for that, but practice cases, I mean, that's the only thing, really. And there are guesstimates in the summers, not so much so in the finals, but yeah, you should practice a few guesstimates as well.
Right. But if someone is actually, going through a summer placement interview for one of these consulting companies, what is the kind of, what are the kind of questions that they can expect? What is the kind of things that these companies focus on and want to take out from?
Yeah, one thing with, I'm not sure if I can say this, with consulting companies and IBs is they prefer people with quote unquote pedigree. I mean, that can't be helped, especially if it's a front ending role. They have to showcase someone with all those stars in their badge. So that's one thing which I think not much can be changed at this point, but not to discourage, it can still be worked upon. But what was the question you asked? I'm sorry, in the interview.
No, so I just ask, the people who are preparing for internships, summer internships for consulting roles. What is that one thing that consulting companies are looking for in those, students who are willing to go to consulting roles and are trying their best to get onto one of these companies?
I think
I think we have lost Pranav. Arshia, we can actually take that question and you can actually tell us what is that one thing that recruiters look for, for people to choose them in the marketing roles, be it the summer internship, be it the final internships.
So I think obviously
problem solving ability.
I think Pranav's back.
Yeah, Pranav, I'll get back to you.
Okay.
Let's just, Arshia finish this.
So,
yeah, go ahead.
So
Arshia.
I'll just say to make it concise, problem solving ability is the key. So it's basically I'd like to call it the raw horsepower for solving problems. So that's the key. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, Arshia, please go ahead.
Yeah. So see, with respect to certain domains like consulting, I mean, they look for a pedigree or something. So when it comes to marketing, I think the wide variety of profiles that are there, you can't really pinpoint that, this is the ideal profile that a marketing company will look for. I mean, it's a combination of various factors. So I think what primarily they look for is obviously that you have a set of diverse experiences that are visible through your CV, because obviously marketing is a field in which you draw from your experiences, and that helps you understand customers better, right? So I think a well balanced CV would sort of help for marketing companies. At the same time, slightly more emphasis on your extracurricular, your PORs, because you don't need very high academics or something as a make or break point for marketing companies as such. I'm not saying that acads are not good. I'm just saying that it's less likely that that is going to be a deal breaker for a marketing company. And
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so and obviously when it comes to the interview, it all boils down to how well the interview goes and the kind of enthusiasm you show and all of that.
Right. With respect to the enthusiasm that you show, this time around, the interviews are also going to be different, as is the case with the GT and the entire process. What are the few things that you guys think are going to help this time around when the online interviews take place for these summer placements or final placements?
Shall I go first?
Yeah, Pranav, go ahead.
Yeah, most importantly, sleep well, keep hydrated, and eat well. I think that makes you more presentable naturally and makes your brain function better. Many people neglect this, and that does not bode well, let me tell you that much. But apart from that, sitting upright and making eye contact, these are some, very basic things. And in general, showing interest like you would in any other conversation. That's about it. Arshia?
Yeah, I think it's more or less the digital hygiene that you would follow for a Zoom call or for a business call or something. So, I mean, obviously those hygiene parameters have to be sort of met, right? I mean, how you're dressed, how you carry yourself, how you sit, how you talk, the way you look at the screen. So all of that is something that people will have to take care of. And yeah, I think Pranav rightly mentioned that, I mean, don't overstress about it. I mean, one night before the interview, don't stay up preparing the whole night. I mean, last minute crunching is not really going to help you. So because obviously when you're in college, there is a support system around you. There are people to sort of bring that snack for you when you are waiting for your interview and all that. That is those things are going to be affected. But yeah, just be positive and take care of the basic digital hygiene parameters. I think we'll be okay.
So blazer and your shorts on is going to be this year's summer internship interview for sure, with these windows that we are looking at currently. What do you guys think is going to be, a differentiator if people actually take up this program that we have in offer, and how do you think this is going to help them in order to crack the summer internship or final internships? Arshia, yeah. Pranav, you want to start? Please go ahead.
Yeah, okay. So the differentiator would be the personal connect vis-a-vis each student. Because a lot of what we told right now is very generic, and there's a good chance people who are watching would have also maybe heard many of these things earlier. But as they say, the devil is in the details. So in those sessions, you will be individually looking at the CVs, how to structure them, people are different. So the way, for example, you'll structure the answer to the question, tell me about yourself, also would be different. So, it's personal little things like that. I think that would be the major differentiator.
Right. Arshia, what about you?
Yeah, and also I think considering that people are not on campus, there's a whole peer-to-peer learning that is somewhat compromised. I wouldn't say missed, because I'm pretty sure it is going on in the digital way, but I think it is definitely compromised, right? So I think a certain amount of hand-holding is sort of, needed, especially when it comes to summer internships. So I think, yeah, this will really help with regards to the personalized approach and the one-on-one sessions which will be given to the participants. So I think that will really help.
Right. All right. So on this note, I just want to tell everybody who is present there. I've been saying this again and again. This is part of the program that we have started at Inside IIM. It's a program that will help you get through to your summer placement. It will help you to, actually understand what you need to do in order to prepare yourself better in the cutthroat competition that's there in the kind of a job market that we are in right now, where a lot of stress is on how do you get to your dream companies. This program is going to definitely help you. We have a CV builder package where you get one-on-one sessions with a lot of mentors that we have for this program. We have GD Power Pack where you actually get GD materials, tips and trips, mock GDs, and a lot of personalized, feedback for those GDs as to how you are doing it and what needs to be, added and what are the things that you need to work on. And there is another package for within this program, which is the interview confidence booster, which will actually boost your confidence with mock interviews with these people here who you have, heard for the last 1 hour. And after each of the mock sessions, expect them to actually give you a feedback and a report saying that this is the thing that you need to improve on, and these are the things that can improve your chances of getting into the company that you actually want to get into. So with that, guys, Arshia and Pranav, thank you very much for joining us today. I hope this was a enlightening session for all the people who have joined us. And we hope that a lot of people actually come in numbers to take part in this program as well. And, I hope a lot of students get the help that they, sorry, excuse me, help that they might just take from their seniors from different B schools, which is not possible, on which we have actually come up with this kind of program. I will end this session, but before that I would like Arshia and Pranav to have their closing remarks if they want to say something to you guys who are going for the summer placements, which are going to happen in a month. I don't know when that's going to start because there's a big question on that also because of the uncertainty that's there in that whole space. So yeah, Arshia, can you just tell
So
people why they should opt for this program and what should they keep in mind in just.
right. So I think the USP of this program is going to be the entire range of mentors, that are present from different companies who are here to help you out. So I think given a chance that all of us would really, because we've been there, right? I mean, this is a situation where you benefit from experience. So we've all been in your shoes and we know what it's like to experience the entire stress of the summer internship process. So we have a very diverse pool of mentors here who are ready to help you and who are eager to help you out. So yeah, do try it out. And I think don't stress too much about your summer internships. It is an experience that obviously you'll remember, but yeah, good luck.
All right, Pranav.
Yeah, first of all, I just want to reassure all the students that things are going to work out. You all started your MBA journey in probably the toughest and the most uncertain year for MBAs, but they'll work out. And I would recommend that you join this program, and together we'll work out on how you can improve, do better. So I hope to see you there. If not, all the best for everyone anyway. I wish you the best of luck for your summers.
All right. Thank you very much, whoever joined us for this particular session. It's a Sunday evening. I'm sure a lot of UB school students are working on some assignment or the other. And a lot of you who are preparing for the CAT, you might be taking your mocks and everything, but you took out time and you actually stayed with us for an hour. We would like to see you more with these mentors. We have a lot of other mentors also. And we just hope that, we can be of any help. This program is there to help you. In the description below, you can find the link where you can find the program. And to know more about it, you can actually get in touch with us. With that, Thank you very much for joining again. Signing off. Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thanks, Paul.
Thank you.